Jeffrey B., good to be here with you. I am your ICE ambassador. I'm an ICE agent. What does that mean? ICE stands for Independent Cryonics Educator. And I am here to explain to you something very fascinating. What if I were to tell you that you didn't have to die? Instead, you could actually just take a little nap, which would be like that, and then wake up later and keep living. Sounds like science fiction, doesn't it? Well, we actually have the first step of the process down, the first step of extending our mortal existences, which is to go into a cryo slumber or cryopreservation. Basically, what you're doing is you are flash freezing the body with liquid nitrogen and a cryoprotectant. And I'm going to give you more information about that possibly in another video. This is just to briefly share with you a little bit about Alcor and what they do and how I can help get you on board instead of choosing traditional clinical death, burial, cremation, or whatever. To me, some people choose that, and it seems like a complete waste these days when we do have the technology to preserve the body, and then with more scientific advancement, we can actually bring you back later, and you can live on in a very, very exciting new world. And I know some people are going to want to do this, maybe many of us. So the first thing I want to mention here, what is cryonics? You've probably heard of cryogenics. That's dealing with things at a very low temperature. But cryonics specifically is differentiated from that, in that cryonics is actually specifically preserving human remains or human vessels for the potential of reanimation at a later date. And you can see in our slide here, it comes from the Greek cryos, meaning icy cold. Okay, it's extremely low temperature preservation of humans who can no longer be sustained by contemporary medicine, in the expectation that they can be healed in the future using more advanced medical technologies. So in essence, what we're talking about is going into cryo slumber, taking a little bit of a hibernation, okay, in a wintry hibernation. And you see in the picture these big dewars. This is what you're actually stored in, those vacuumed out aluminum dewars. The bodies are stored in here, and liquid nitrogen is in these dewars to keep the temperature very cold, so that nothing decomposes, no oxidation takes place, and the body is preserved for reanimation later. Again, this sounds far-fetched, but this is already going on right now in Alcor, the company I'm an ambassador for. They already have a lot of patients, and I myself will go on ice when it's time, because this process is becoming better and better and more cost effective as the years go by. Now, cryonics procedures are initiated when today's medical technologies and practices can no longer sustain a patient. Cryonics preserves viability by pausing the biological dying process. It is the bridge between pronouncement of legal death and future medical advancements of life-saving measures. Now, we know that there are a couple of options here. In our next slide, we have two main options for preservation. One is neuro, and the other is whole body. At Alcor Life Extension Foundation makes no recommendation regarding this choice. Members need to educate themselves about these factors involved, and make a choice based on their own personal considerations and judgment. And there is actually a pamphlet. There is a pamphlet slash article on the Alcor site. I can provide that, which will give you a lot more information about which one of these two choices to pick from. I myself would rather go with whole body. Whole body is going to be more expensive rather than neuro, which is just the head. So look at this neuro cryopreservation. Is cryopreservation of the brain within the head based on the premise that the brain is the seat of personal identity and that all other parts of the body can theoretically be regrown around the brain or head and brain with sufficiently advanced medical repair technology. Now we know that cloning is coming going to be in full swing before we know it. We do know that we can regenerate, we can clone bodies. Eventually, we're going to be able to clone whole bodies, where basically you would have something called a body transplant, where you would simply take the brain or the head and you would put that, if it's just the brain, you would implant that into a new body, or you would take the head and you're going to transplant that onto a new body, suture it on. And by that time, all of that technology will be just seamless, flawless, and will happen. Body transplants will be a thing of the past. They feel like a thing of the future now, but eventually it's just going to be old hat, and we're going to be doing this all the time. You can also choose whole body if you have any doubts or you're not sure if the brain is the seat of our identity, our personality, our spirit, soul. If you believe in that thing, that type of energy or whatever, you may want to opt in for whole body cryopreservation, which is a safer bet. Just in case the identity is not wholly seated in the brain or the central nervous system, we might choose whole body. The cryoprotective perfusion of the whole body with cryoprotectant chemicals, followed by cooling the whole body to liquid nitrogen temperature for long-term preservation. This does have some, potential drawbacks. If you are old enough or too old, your body may not hold up to the perfusive process while the cryoprotectant is being pumped in through the major arteries and blood vessels, so that your cells don't crystallize, form ice crystals in there, and cause any kind of rupturing or any damage. This cryopreservation process using a cryoprotectant allows for something called vitrification, and that just means vitrification means glass, or turning the inside, the milieu inside the body tissue matrix into a glass-like state instead of ice crystal formation, so that you can actually avoid damaging organs, damaging cells, and that's what we have to do to keep the body in a reanimated, potentially a state where it can be reanimated, resurrected later without any damage. Now, we're looking at some funding here. As you can see on the screen, whole body is going to be a minimum of about $250,000. Okay, neuro is half that price, less than half that price. Okay, so neuro is a lot cheaper way to go. You can see the breakdown of how your funds are going to be put in. You can see there eventual revival. So they're going to put money into your revival process. That they're assuming some of that's going to be more expensive later on. So they're going to put some money into that. So this is a really amazing thing. You can see how the funding is there on your screen. Again, this does cover the entire cost for the procedure, both methods, and there's your breakdown. Now, here's how things are going to go. Okay, you've got your CMS, your comprehensive member standby. When a member, a client of Alcor, of this cryonics, this life extension process, When um, when a member is on their deathbed, Alcor will send a team to the location and stand by them until they are pronounced, and then begin the cryonic procedure. And this is something that needs to happen right away, of course, because we don't want any deterioration, oxidation, decomposition whatsoever to even get started in the body. So we've got to start this process, perfusion, if it's the whole body, or whatever method you choose. The CMS is maintained by an annual fee, which is currently $200 per year. In addition to fees due, membership dues before the member is cryopreserved. The fee can be waived if the member provides an additional $20,000 in funding. That is typically an economical move for younger members who can obtain life insurance at lower rates. $20,000 in additional life insurance will make little difference to their premium payments. For older members, it's not the case, but the additional funding will mean there is some buffer for future increases in premiums. There are two approved methods of funding. You've got life insurance and prepayment. Approximately 90% of Alcor members use life insurance. This is especially helpful for younger members. The insurance company must be rated as A- or better by AM Best. Alcor recommends a permanent policy such as whole life or universal index life insurance. Term policies are acceptable, but they must be convertible. Term 25-30 year policies. And any alternative must be approved. We've got a couple of different kinds of memberships. You've got your basic and you've got your cryopreservation member. So with your basic membership, the person is signed a membership agreement and pays dues to Alcor and thereby supports the organization in submission. Members may or may not intend to be cryopreserved. They may want to support the organization without having personal plans to be cryopreserved. And they may be thinking about whether they want to be cryopreserved and or are working on their funding. And the other way is this member has all the above benefits plus full legal and financial arrangements for cryopreservation. This is the path I will choose, the cryopreservation member, because I know this is the way that I want to be extended, if you will. This is the way I want to live on my live on experience. Okay, this is what I'm looking for through my live on experience. The funding covers the entire process from standby stabilization and transport through cryoprotect and perfusion to long-term storage, and finally to eventually repair and revive. These are some ways you can become an Alcor member. Please go in and have a look at their website. This is how you begin the whole process. You will need a last will and testament, of course, signed. So if you are interested and you want more information about this, please go onto the website. There's a lot of great information there. And also, another amazing thing about Alcor and what we can do with cryonics is we preserve your best buddy. Your best buddy's a pet. You got a little pooch or a little kitty cat or whatever, rabbit, snake, whatever it is. You want that to come along with you. You want your little buddy, hey, or buddies. Boom, we've got it covered. We've got pet cryopreservation going on as well with revival, resurrection, reanimation at a later date. You've got a couple of types here. You've got your straight freeze is the most common option for pets because members do not find it easy to bring their pets to Alcor while the latter are still living. Upon arrival at the Alcor facility, your pet will undergo controlled cooling to liquid nitrogen temperature before being placed in long-term storage. And then your other one is perfusion. Includes the cost of euthanasia at the Alcor facility and the procedures done by a veterinary surgeon. Pets can be perfused with cryoprotectant immediately after death, which nearly eliminates ischemia and rapidly cools the brain. Ischemia would be damage to the brain by loss of oxygen or by deprivation of oxygen causing damage to the brain, okay? So that ischemia is not going to occur. Um, these are some great options, everybody. These are great options. And that's it. That's all we've got there. So I want you to um, really consider this, because this is something that we can do now. And I would like you to really think about, before you feel that resurrection's not an opportunity, revival, reanimation. You don't want to live on again because life's too hard. Well, think about this. Think about this. Honestly, heaven is not guaranteed. Neither is hell. And the future does hold great promise. So whatever you're dealing with now that you think you can't get through, the future is going to have more options available to cure your ailments. A lot of ailments we feel we can't cure are in the mind. Psychology, psychiatry is going to be way better. Bodily aging, falling apart. We can replace parts, nanobot technology. There's all kinds of amazing, promising things in the future. But you have to believe, you have to have hope and faith. Let's say, for example, you can't be reanimated. You're going to be dead anyway. So, what makes us think that our body has to be completely non-functioning or preserved before the soul can depart from the body? It's, if you can't be reanimated, the soul's probably going to be gone anyway. I know this enters into a metaphysical debate possibly, but just think about it, that if it doesn't work and you can't be reanimated, you're going to be gone anyway. So it doesn't matter in the end. This is the best option we have to preserve now and wait for the technology. What are you going to do with your time anyway? Go hang out in heaven or hang out in hell? Might as well hang out in the damn Alcor Doer while you're waiting to be brought back for second chance and an amazing new beginning. Hope to see you in the future.